Sderot is a city near the Gaza Strip in southern Israel. It's also called Rocket City because this town has been the target of innumerable rockets, more than 8,000 during the last decade. We accompany the journalist Noam Badina, who knows the city well, and we ask him to talk about some of his experiences.
I've been documenting the families that have been hit by direct hits. And this is what I try doing over here, is getting a better understanding about how is it to be living in this rocket reality.
We also meet with a traumatherapist, Judith Spanglet, who gives us an insight into her work. She is an expert in helping people to deal with their traumas.
They've been living under a threat for the last 13, 14 years. So they have what we call accumulative trauma. It's just continuous, and there's not a time where anyone can say it's over.
People in Sderot are trying to cope with this permanent stress as much as they can. They are living under the ongoing threat through rockets fired into Israel from the Gaza Strip. This has been going on for over a decade.
For the past almost 12 years, over 8,600 rockets and missiles exploded into this town, into the surrounding areas. And this has been the most bombarded city ever since World War II.
Driving through the town, we see no obvious destruction. Life seems to go on in a normal way. But the situation can't be called normal at all. A young mother explains why.
It's not a normal situation, especially for small children. It's like war. Sometimes it is quiet, but you never know what will happen next. You never know when the alarm will sound or where the rocket will fall. You are permanently in a situation of suspense. You never feel secure.
Noam shows us the backyard of the central police station. Here, some of the rockets that hit the town are stored.
Here we have the rocket gallery over here. You have around 200 rockets displayed over here at the police station in Sderot. You have around 20 types of rockets, different sizes, different lengths, different colors, indicating the different terrorist organizations. A rocket is being fired from Gaza towards Sderot. We have 15 seconds or less to run for our lives.
What shall we do if we are driving a car? For instance, in the morning I drive my kids to school and kindergarten. There are 5 children seated with their belts fastened. Suddenly there is a rocket alarm. What can I do with my 5 children within 15 seconds?
Every single road, every single street, every single community, every single family and child has experienced a rocket explode nearby. Once you've experienced a rocket explode nearby, your life has completely changed from that moment.
There's a tremendous amount of being on guard and having a tremendous amount of activation in the nervous system. And people have a very difficult time being able just to calm down. And children are the most vulnerable.
So a couple of years ago, as the routine of being under rocket fire first thing in the morning, we had a rocket explosion over here in the field next to the school. This was 20 minutes before the children actually arrived to the school. You can see until today the shrapnel of the rockets going through that caravan where the children actually study.
Children especially are affected in such a situation. Parents are telling us how helpless they feel because they cannot protect their own children.
Here, look at the Busta bomb shelter, which is right over here. They're all shelters. And these are the old neighborhoods that today have a bomb shelter attached. You can imagine a family on the third, fourth floor, what they had to go through sometimes on a daily basis, having a siren going off, and they're expected to run to their staircase or to their bathrooms and hopefully not to get hit by a direct hit.
The municipality built bomb shelters in houses, apartments, and public buildings to protect the residents against the impact of the rockets.
You can see a protected school. You can really see the metal device on top of the school itself, how only a third of a school in this school over here is protected.
At the moment, everything is calm in the town. Life goes on as usual. As a visitor, it's hard to imagine the impact of the daily threat through the rockets.
There is a real accumulative, ongoing trauma. It's something very, very unique that's going on. They've been talking about maybe there should be a new kind of a syndrome, a name for the syndrome of what's happening to the people that live here. It affects everyone, even, women who are pregnant. So many of the women who were pregnant have had miscarriages or stillbirths.
The daily routine on the news broadcast here in Israel in the past almost 7 years, almost on a daily basis or every other day, are mentioning how 2 Qassam rockets fell nearby Sderot. No injuries, no harm done. Maybe 2 people were treated for shock, and to the weather report. And the question I start to ask myself, can 5 seconds of rating of being under rocket fire, can we understand the meaning of shock, anxiety, or trauma through listening to news broadcasts or watching it on television news?
את הדקות הבאות נייחד לכמה מהאנשים
That whole psychological impact, the whole human side of the story was not mentioned or understood through media elements, and this became my challenge in the past couple of years to try getting a deep of understanding. What does it mean to be constantly under rocket fire today? Like no other place in the world where for the past over a decade, an entire population has been exposed to rocket fire.
The fact that rockets are fired from the Gaza Strip into this city is well documented in the media, especially in the internet. Many clips show the launching of Qassam rockets.
This is a sheltered caterpillar that was built here for children. This was built on the summer of 2008. 2008 was a year we had over 3,200 rockets, missiles being fired towards this region. And they built this playground so children could feel more safe to go play in their playground itself. And you can notice as you arrive to the entrance of the bomb shelter, having these signs saying if you have a siren going off, red alert, you go into the shelter over the orange line and then you're protected. There's some psychological welfare project revealing after the investigation that up to 94% of children in this town have been diagnosed with symptoms of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Experts say that the constant threat through rockets causes psychological problems, even years after. These experiences have an enormous impact on the lives of children when they grow up.
My first experience actually moving to Sderot, I was making a story about the kindergarten children and teachers, what they have to go through. And I actually brought my sister, who's a clown therapist, to the kindergartens just to perform. And I remember as we arrived to the kindergarten, the teacher was talking to the children about snails, how they come out in the winter. And the teacher was asking the children, so why do you think a snail has a shell? And all the kids spontaneously answered, so it could be protected from the Qassam. The first lessons in schools, they had drawing lessons, teaching children how to express themselves on drawings. I collected, as a photojournalist, these drawings, and just seeing the same pattern of rockets, explosions, and ambulances and sirens going off is hard to understand what the entire town and population, especially the younger generation, have been facing and coping with.
So many times, what people do is they hear that there's a boom, they weren't hurt, and then they run out as fast as possible. But they don't realize that if they don't just look inside just for a moment, all of that energy which they automatically have to save themselves, maybe to run or to do something, all of that energy is stuck in their system. And then it can become all kinds of symptoms. It can be that they are just very irritable, or that they all of a sudden start to get angry, or that they don't fall asleep at night, or whatever it might be. There can be many, many, many kinds of symptoms just because this energy is stuck inside their system.
Psychotherapists observe that many children here aren't able to talk about their feelings, but suppress them. Many adults, too, feel that they're left alone with their fears.
As I said, the experience of moving to Sderot was waking up almost every single morning with the collective alarm clock, having the sirens going off from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning, followed by an explosion, when that's the time when the entire town is waking up. Parents, they were on the way to shop, to work, children on the way to the kindergartens, to schools.
Children are playing on playgrounds with bomb shelters. How can they develop in a healthy way in such an insecure and threatening situation?
People think that little children, are not affected by whatever happens in a situation like this. And as long as they're taking care of the children, that they won't remember this. But the body does remember this. And little children have a lot of little traumas. These little traumas that are happening over and over and over again affects them not only as their children, but since it's in the body and it happens before they're 3 years old and before their language has developed, it means that their body remembers, but their cognition doesn't. And so they might be very jumpy. They might have other symptoms that they have no idea why they have them.
The tension is heightened when nothing happens and become unbearable because nobody knows when the next rocket will hit the town. It's a feeling of utter helplessness.
Every single person in this town and region has experienced a rocket explode nearby. My first rocket experience was right over here. This is a Moroccan synagogue And I used to live down here for 2 years. I came here on a Sabbath prayers on a Friday night eve. This is over 6 years ago. And then we had the siren going off. We had no bomb shelter. And in less than 15 seconds, a huge explosion right there in the junction, right behind us. Everybody, they jumped out of their seats. Half the people, they ran outside of the synagogue to see if their house was hit. And my personal experience was seeing a father not knowing what child to go on first to protect.
How is it possible to live under such a threat? Many inhabitants don't want to talk about it anymore. There's been too much discussion without results. They feel they're not understood, left alone and isolated.
I really don't get it why people don't understand our situation. Why is that so difficult? What would they do in our place? What would they feel? Somebody who lives in this city just wants to take care of his family, bring up his children, go to work. He just wants to live a normal life.
How can this situation be changed? Is it possible? And what about the people on the other side? What about their children?
I also think about the little children who are on the other side of the border or that are living in Gaza or wherever, and they hear the same things that these children hear. They are experiencing the same kind of reactions because everybody has the same nervous system. We are all created in the same way.
Judith counsels people who cannot handle the situation, who cannot talk about their feelings and repress their frustration.
I certainly wouldn't judge any of them that reacted or acted in any way because I think that they all are reacting, also the parents are reacting to a not normal situation.
But couldn't they just move to another place and the problem would be solved?
People will actually tell me that we're not leaving our home now because if I leave my home now, these rockets are going to be going on to the next town.
The people on both sides are suffering from the threat through the rockets of the radical Islamic groups, here in southern Israel, but also on the other side in the Gaza Strip.
We are trying to cope with this difficult situation. We stick to our daily routine as much as we can. I discovered that this is the best way to cope with the problems, just to follow the daily routine in a normal way. Spending time with friends and the family helps a lot. Of course, this is not always possible, but we should try to do this.
We didn't come here to make suggestions as to how to solve this problem, but to listen to the people. Is there a way to change the situation? Are there any political solutions?
Some people are just frustrated that it doesn't end, that they can't end it, that their leaders can't end this, that the army hasn't been able to end it, that it just doesn't end. I think that that in and of itself is the biggest frustration. I think that we just want to have a quiet existence and be able to produce and to create and to be happy people. And unfortunately, it's frustrating when you think how far away it seems that we are from that kind of a reality.